Hey everybody, welcome to the Sunday Funday, the NFL Pregame Show that doesn't suck. Now, Underdog TV is everything that network television isn't. Whether it's ESPN, Fox, CBS, NFL Network, you name it, the pregame shows are all unwatchable. We don't do the thing where we cut away to the feel-good story and have a tear coming down our eye. We don't do the fake laugh. Hey, producers in your ear, some old guy just told a stupid, lame joke, pretend to laugh, pretend it's funny. We don't do any of that. We try to cut through all that BS and get into NFL analysis. So this episode, what will it include? The Fantasy Football Fallout Injury Edition. It's win or go home time, everybody, okay? So how do the injuries impact your fantasy football outcomes? We will let you know in about a 5 or a 10-minute segment, give or take. We have the Pick 6, and what that will include is RoccoBot, my computer projections, everybody's favorite creepy robot pick'em engine. RoccoBot is about 59% this year against the spread. If you're an enthusiast of against the spread, you know that's pretty good. It's a lot of fun, so we'll go ahead and make those picks. Then I'm going to bring Brad from the Get Paid podcast on. Brad and I are going to talk about our 6 favorite games and kind of break those down. Then we bring Dave Mason from BetOnline just to add a little bit of gravitas to this show. Dave Mason is going to tell us where all the smart money is going right now, so it's always nice to see and kind of vet our picks against what Dave Mason and the betting universe is doing. After that, we're going to take deep dives into the Rams-Cowboys game and the Buffalo Bills-Pittsburgh Steelers game. Those games are huge with playoff implications. We're going to take deep dives, look into that, create a game plan, a path to victory for all 4 of those teams there. Then we're going to conclude the show with a couple of segments from Chris Horadell, the NFL show, the Underdog NFL show. It's a podcast, very popular, very ranked on Apple iTunes. The New England Patriots, what are those rascals up to? What are you doing with that camera, Bill Belichick? We want to know. So we got about a 5-minute segment towards the tail end, and then we close out this show with a segment, again, with Chris Horadell with his co-host Greg from You're Wrong, Here's Why, that podcast, talking about everybody's favorite lunatic, Antonio Brown. What color is his mustache this week? I don't know. But why don't we just go ahead and get rolling here. Let's get it going. Win or go home. Fantasy Football Fallout Injury Edition. All right, everybody, I'm just going to work my way game through game here, just talk about the key injuries and the impact on your fantasy football teams. This will not take very long, but it is very important as we are on the fantasy football playoffs. So Buffalo versus Pittsburgh, Juju Smith-Schuster, Vance McDonald, both listed as questionable in the injury report. I don't think it's going to change too much. I think this game is going to be a defensive game. These teams are both in the top 5 or 6 in the league in terms of points given up, meaning they don't give up many points at all, each defense. I think this is going to be a slug match. I think it's going to be an old school football game. Points are going to be tough to come by. I don't really think this impacts my projections in any way. I'm not happy with any of the offensive players in this game, really. But check my start and sit video from earlier in the week for more specifics there. Chicago versus Green Bay. Chicago could be getting Gabriel back. He's in the injury report is questionable. Green Bay is missing, or I shouldn't say missing, but Devontae Adams, Jimmy Graham are both listed as questionable. Now I tend to think all of these guys will play. The impact here is we've seen what's been going on with Anthony Miller while Gabriel's been having injury issues on his side. Maybe Miller comes back down to earth. Now, I doubt a lot of people out there are going to be starting Anthony Miller in their fantasy lineups in this important week. But this does impact daily fantasy quite a bit, I think. If Gabriel's back in the lineup, I think Miller recedes a little bit in his potential. Devontae Adams is going to be on the injury report throughout the rest of the season, but I do believe he'll play, so no impact there. And Jimmy Graham's not getting you consistent points, so no big deal. Denver versus Kansas City. Noah Fant in Denver is on the injury list. And then, basically the right side of Denver's offensive line, Leary and Juwan James are also on the injury report. All listed as questionable, mind you. Noah Fant is a bigger deal because Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos offense like to make Noah Fant a focal point. But if he's out, that only helps Cortland Sutton's points. So if you're an owner of Cortland Sutton, I think you're rooting, for Noah Fant to be out of the game. But either way, I think Cortland Sutton is a start grade player. Noah Fant, I think he's been up and down as rookies are. He certainly has been trending up later into the season, but I'm not super pleased with him. The offensive line, I don't love it. I do have both running backs, Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman, projected as startable players this year, with Lindsay getting a touchdown. I don't love it if one or both of these offensive linemen are out, but let's keep an eye out for that. And Juwan James has been injured and not injured, back and forth on the injury list pretty much all season. Damian Williams is still on the injury list for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I believe he is practicing now. I think he can play, but but I still think LaShawn McCoy is the running back of note in Kansas City moving forward. Houston versus Tennessee. Will Fuller is a big one. He's still on the injury list with that hamstring issue. As I've been talking about, Will Fuller adds that vertical component to Houston's offense. When Will Fuller plays, it helps everybody on that offense, including Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson. Certainly DeAndre Hopkins gets less double, triple coverage. So, having Will Fuller in that lineup not only helps Houston in terms of their wins and their cover percentage for, just basically your NFL betting, but he also helps that team win quite a bit. So I think that's a big one. If Will Fuller plays, I think he's a definite start. I think he'll get you catches and yards. If he doesn't play, I think points are going to be a little bit harder to come by for Houston against Tennessee. Tennessee, no injuries of note in my opinion. Miami versus the New York Giants. Devontae Parker is really the only player of note, in my opinion, for Miami. With that concussion, he's listed as questionable. We'll see how that goes. He has to get out of that concussion protocol to play, as you know, so that's just going to be a coin flip as we work our way through the weekend. And then Albert Wilson as well. So if neither guys can go, you're looking at basically Allen Hurns, and that's it for Miami. I'm not a big fan, by the way, of Laird at running back. I'm not a big fan of any other Miami Dolphin, whether it's Gesicki or what have you. And actually Fitzpatrick, as well as he's been playing as of late from a fantasy football point of view, I don't like him this week, even against the New York Giants. Now, for the Giants, Daniel Jones, Evan Ingram, those guys are questionable. I tend to think Daniel Jones will not play, and Eli Manning will get another start, which makes me like the pass catchers a little bit more. Yes, Eli Manning might throw some interceptions, but as we see with Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay, interceptions aren't going to kill your wide receivers. It can only help them because they're trying to push that ball downfield. Evan Ingram, if he doesn't go, that's a bummer for Evan Ingram owners, but whoever's coming in behind him, whether it's Caden Smith or Rhett Ellison, I like this week. Next one we have, let's see here, New England and Cincinnati. New England, a lot of people on the injury report. You have Edelman, you have Sanu, you have a couple of offensive linemen there. That's an issue, but I tend to think New England work in the middle and the intermediate middle and the deep middle of this field against Cincinnati's defense will be successful. I think Edelman will play. I actually like a guy like Dorsett to kind of work out of the slot and running seam routes up against Cincinnati. So I think that's a lot of potential there for New England, even with the injuries. For Cincinnati, A.J. Green is perpetually on the injury report. I tend to think A.J. Green will not play. Playing against New England's secondary and their defense, I don't like anybody for Cincinnati this week, to be honest with you. So injury or not, I probably wouldn't start them if I have other options out there. Philadelphia versus Washington, you got Jordan Howard and the entire wide receiver core for Philadelphia, and right tackle Lane Johnson's on the injury list. But seriously, so Alshon Jeffrey's on the injured reserve, as everybody knows. Nelson Aguilar is on the injured list as well. But for me, for Philadelphia, it means a couple of things. I think Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz at tight end, I think they're going to kind of go small ball, and those guys will be much more prominent in the offense. I think either one of those tight ends can be started this week, with Zach Ertz being the more popular, if that wasn't obvious. And then at receiver, regardless of whether or not Nelson Aguilar plays, I actually like Arcega-Whiteside more as a wide receiver this week. And Jordan Howard, if he doesn't go, to me, it doesn't make a huge difference. If Howard can't go, I like Boston Scott a little bit more, okay? But if he can go, it doesn't matter. To me, this is a Miles Sanders offense no matter what. So it's not a big impact. I guess it's just whether or not you want to take a flyer on Boston Scott. Next team on the list here, next game I should say, Seattle versus Carolina. Dwayne Brown for Seattle, not a huge deal. The big news really is Rashad Penny going out. How involved will CJ Prosise be? I think it's too risky to put him in your fantasy football lineup, so I'm staying away from him, even though he might have some opportunity, and I'm all in on Chris Carson this week. For Carolina, you have Greg Olsen as questionable. If he's out, Ian Thomas will step in. I don't love that for my fantasy team. I know Ian Thomas had a nice game last week, but against Seattle, Seattle tight ends have been playing pretty well. If you're really, really desperate at tight end this week, you could take a flyer on Ian Thomas. But really, I just hope that Greg Olsen plays so we don't have to make that decision. Tampa Bay versus Detroit. Mike Evans listed as doubtful at this point. He's not going to play, everybody. Let's just put that to rest right now. Jameis Winston is also on the injured list. I'm sure he will play. What this means for me, a lot of people are saying, is it Rashad Perriman? Is it Scott Miller? Is it one of these other receivers that's going to get the uptick? For me, it's Godwin, obviously. early is a start. And I think Tampa Bay, even though schematically, I've been talking all year about this, schematically, Tampa Bay, Bruce Arians, they don't really love going to the tight end. I think this week, O.J. Howard will be integrated right back into that offense. I think we're going to have an O.J. Howard sighting. I think Cameron Brate will be involved as well. So it's going to be, I think, Godwin kind of moving the chains over the top. And then once you get in the red zone, Howard and Brate are going to be a lot more prominent there. So that's where I theorize that this offense is going to go. I know a lot of other people disagree with me, but again, if you're desperate at tight end, I actually like O.J. Howard as a flyer this week more than I like a guy like Ian Thomas. That's just where I'm at. Let's see. Now for Detroit, you have Stafford obviously out, Bo Scarborough out, a couple of offensive linemen for Detroit. I don't love Detroit. However, Tampa Bay's defense gives up a lot of yardage in the passing game. I do think they'll take their shots. I don't think any of these injuries really impact your starts or sits. Whoever you can start for Detroit, especially in a wide receiver position, I like them. And maybe even Logan Thomas, again, if you're desperate at the tight end position. Next game, we have Cleveland versus Arizona. You got Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, a couple of offensive linemen there as well for Cleveland. Don't love it. That Beckham injury is really concerning. I think that David Njoku and Jarvis Landry, I think, is definitely a start. And if I have Beckham, I'd probably start him as well. But I think David Njoku is the more curious one there. I think that, against the Arizona defense, the tight ends tend to score well. For Arizona, mind you, Christian Kirk, you have a couple of offensive linemen out for them as well. I think it's more Larry Fitzgerald this week. Christian Kirk, I tend to think, is going to play. Look for that slot receiver, whether it's Keyshawn Johnson or somebody else. I think they'll have some opportunity against Cleveland as well. San Francisco versus Atlanta, Devontae Freeman, Julio Jones. You got Richard Sherman from San Francisco. I think both teams will be able to put up some points with San Francisco winning. San Francisco, outside of Richard Sherman, is actually as healthy as I've seen them all year. I think they'll have a very strong game. The Rams versus the Cowboys. Martin and Collins on the offensive line for the Cowboys. That's going to be not great, but I still think the offense will move the ball. For the Rams, they're actually relatively healthy, so I think this is going to be a nice competitive game, and we'll talk about that one a little bit later. Minnesota, you still have Adam Thielen is questionable. I think they actually need him this week, so we'll see what happens. B.C. Johnson is also questionable. Now, if Thielen can't go, to me, that's all about Kyle Rudolph being more integrated and Irv Smith more integrated at the tight end position. Interestingly, Alexander Mattison is also questionable. We came in thinking Dalvin Cook would be the more banged up running back with that injury he suffered, in the night game a couple weeks ago. But now it's looking like Alexander Mattison might be the more questionable of those guys. I still think they'll split snaps though a little bit more than you'd be used to seeing there. For the LA Chargers, Mike Williams questionable. I don't think that's a big deal. I do have Mike Williams as a flex play this week, as a startable player. However, if he doesn't play, obviously you don't do it, and I stay away from the rest of the LA Chargers. If Williams doesn't play, it just makes me like Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry more. I wouldn't go to one of the backup wide receivers there. Lastly, Monday Night Football, we have Indianapolis versus New Orleans. T.Y. Hilton's the big one there. He's questionable. I start him. If he doesn't play, I would start Zach Pascal for sure. And then for New Orleans, Jared Cook. You have a couple of offensive linemen, a couple of linebackers as well. So if the linebackers are out for New Orleans, I think Jack Doyle for the Indianapolis Colts could have a really nice game. Jared Cook, obviously, I think he's definitely startable. If he's out, you'd look to a guy like Josh Hill off the waivers. So there you go. That takes me through the fantasy football fallout. And we got some more stuff coming for you, starting with RoccoBot and his favorite Pick 6 picks. So let's get that going as well. All right, everybody, it's the Pick 6. So let me quickly run through RoccoBot's Pick 6. And I just want to remind everybody, let's just show some RoccoBot stats. Everybody's favorite creepy pick'em robot. RoccoBot lifetime over the last maybe 6-7 years here, I think, is a roughly 62%. It might be after this season because he's a little bit down. Might be more like 60 to 61%. But this season, for all games, 80 and 80, that's 50%. No bueno, not for all games. But if you look at the locks and the top 5 picks this season, definitely in the pay zone. The top 5 picks, RoccoBot was 2-3 last week, so he fell below 60%. But I think we'll get back on track this week. Little disclaimer here, as I always say, look, gambling illegally, that'd be dumb. Don't do it. Gambling money that you can't afford to lose, always a stupid decision. Don't do that. I'm not guaranteeing these picks. These are for entertainment purposes. It's a robot that makes picks, everybody. Let's not get crazy about it, even though he has been very accurate over the period of time that he's been making the picks. But let's talk about Rocco's top 6 picks, since this is the pick 6 this week, in no random order and no specific order. And by the way, everybody, I just want to remind everybody, this is a robot. I don't always agree with them, but let's talk about it. New England minus 10 over Cincinnati in order. Then San Francisco minus 11 over Atlanta. Then you have Indianapolis plus 9 over New Orleans, Denver plus 10 over Kansas City, Tampa Bay minus 4 over the Detroit Lions, and Miami plus 3 over the New York Giants. Now, let me tell you, of these picks, San Francisco gives me a little bit of pause just because of that Richard Sherman injury. But as I said, San Francisco is the most healthy they've been all season long. So I'm actually coming back over to the San Francisco side. But as a bettor, I don't love laying 11 points, so I'm probably taking that off. New England, meanwhile, at minus 10, RoccoBot's favorite pick of the week. I got to say, Cincinnati's had trouble scoring. New England has had no trouble shutting really good offenses down this year, and holding really, really good offenses, other like elite offenses in check. Now, I think New England covers this game, and coming off of 2 losses, I like it. Indianapolis, I'm actually on the other side. As you'll find out in our next segment, Brad is also on the other side in this one. I actually like New Orleans, but 9 is a lot of points to lay, so you could certainly make the argument. Denver and Kansas City, I'm always afraid to bet against Kansas City, even with a big spread like that. Tampa Bay minus 4. Betting on Jameis Winston, in my estimation, is just risking money, but I do like the pick, going against a third-string quarterback there. The only bummer is Mike Evans' injury. What's going to happen to that offense? There's a lot of questions. And then betting on Miami against a New York Giants team that could have Eli Manning throwing the ball, who I think is, at this stage, probably even still a better quarterback than Daniel Jones is. However, I agree that the New York Giants should be playing Daniel Jones. And that takes me through RoccoBot's creepy NFL picks, but creepy robot, but very, very successful. And you know what? Why don't we just go ahead and play Brad's now? Brad and I are going to do some rapid fire, pick by pick, and then we delve right into our pick 6. So let's roll that tape. So, Brad, let's, I'll do the fantasy stuff at the end of the episode. Let's talk about right now Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. Interesting one, because Pittsburgh right now, if the season ended today, would be the 6th seed. Buffalo would be the 5 seed. Pittsburgh is 8-5. Buffalo is 9-4. So basically, if Pittsburgh can blitz the crap out of Josh Allen and get to the quarterback, win that game, suddenly the AFC playoff picture gets really weird. That elevates Oakland's chance to get back into it if Oakland can win. The loser of the Tennessee Titans versus Houston Texans game, which we'll talk about a little bit later, the loser will be then 8-6. The winner will be 9-5. So, I mean, basically, this whole thing gets murky if Pittsburgh wins. Now, if Buffalo wins, Buffalo's basically, boom, they're in the playoffs, and Pittsburgh all of a sudden is looking and trying to fight with the loser of that AFC South game, as well as potentially the Oakland Raiders. But I'm pretty sure the Oakland Raiders are out after their loss to Tennessee. So what do you think, Brad?
Well, I think that it'd be curious to see how good the Steelers could have been if they didn't have all the injuries or lost their big 3, right?
Well, coming into the season, dude, you and me liked Pittsburgh to win the division. With respect to Baltimore, we had Pittsburgh and Baltimore both making the playoffs. We loved those. You're right, man. Think about this. Roethlisberger hasn't played since what, like part of week 2, week 3, somewhere around there? You telling me Roethlisberger couldn't get you a couple of wins that Devlin Hodges or Mason Rudolph couldn't get? You telling me that they would have definitely lost that Cleveland game where Myles Garrett swung the helmet? Man, this team could be a 2-loss team if they had Roethlisberger there. They're good, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that Buffalo is going to shut them down a little bit and take away what they're good at. I like Buffalo this weekend. And actually, we were dogging, at least I was dogging Buffalo at the beginning of the year. And they've been great, man, and I like their brand of football too. I love it.
Yeah, I'll say this: at least when we're wrong, we could admit it. Oakland was another one, but Buffalo, we were dogging them, and then I started seeing them in training camp and preseason games. I was like, you know what? They're a lot better than I thought. Josh Allen's better than I thought, and then Lamar Jackson is better than I thought he would be as well. So let me give you some quick stats, Brett. So Buffalo averages 21 points a game. Not great. That's good enough for 20th. So that's bottom. Well, I guess it's not quite bottom third. And then they give up, though, 16.3 points a game. That's good enough for second in the league behind the Patriots. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, scores 19.9. Not great. That's 23rd in the league. And they give up 18.6. That's good, sixth in the league. But Buffalo, in terms of offense, they score more. Defense, they give up less. As good as Pittsburgh's defense is, and I think this has all of the makings of like a 17-13 type game. I think it's going to be a defensive bout, not exactly what NBC is looking for on Sunday Night Football. But but yeah, man, it's a big game, and I think it's going to be a tough game, and it's going to come down to whether or not I think Pittsburgh wants to use those running backs out in the flats, and they just haven't wanted to. Like I said before, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers' offensive play calling is really using the weapons at their disposal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm with you. I like Buffalo. The only thing that concerns me is Pittsburgh's ability to rush the passer. We saw it with Jared Goff. They definitely have the ability to do that same thing to the Buffalo Bills and basically punish Josh Allen all game. I think Josh Allen has to be a runner in this game. Now, he does run, but, I think they're going to have to, flip the pocket, roll them out a little bit more, and call some read option stuff just to neutralize this pass rush, and obviously throw more screen passes. I don't think Buffalo's using Devin Singletary enough in the passing game. I think they need to pass the ball more. Going to be an interesting one, man. Defensive bout for sure. Both of us like Buffalo there. Next game,
but good for both of those teams. Sorry, Sean. Good for both of those teams for being surprises of the year.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it sounds weird for Pittsburgh to be the surprise, but who would have ever thought this would happen?
No, when Roethlisberger went down, I think everybody thought their season was over outside of Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, kudos to them, man. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not even showing them a ton of respect yet. I have Tennessee ranked ahead of them in my power rankings, which a lot of Pittsburgh fans are pissed off at. They said they should definitely be top 10. Top 10, I don't know about that, but considering
let's slow down a bit.
Yeah, 49ers, Seahawks, New Orleans, and Minnesota, who we just already talked about. That's 4 right there, and then they're 6th in the yeah. But anyway, I know Pittsburgh, they love their team, and good for them for giving us crap for that. Next game, Brett, I want to talk about and feature here, Chicago plus 4.5 versus Green Bay. You're a Green Bay fan, so let me start. Mitch Trubisky. Okay. Mitch Trubisky, you and I were texting, we're like, what the hell is going on with that? And I said, I got to look into this a little bit more, seeing why he's playing so well lately. In my opinion is that he's free to run a little bit more. He's using his legs a little bit more like he did last season. He's doing exactly what I think Dallas, by the way, should be doing, is letting Dak Prescott, maybe not letting isn't the right word, but telling Dak Prescott, just take it and run. Russell Wilson, every time you see a hole open up for Russell Wilson and he drops back in the pocket, he's like, yeah, I'll take those 6 yards. Boom, 6 yards, slide. Doesn't get hit, 6 yards, 2nd and 4, let's go. At the beginning of the year, Chicago wasn't doing that. They've been doing that lately. That helps put you in manageable situations. Dallas, by the way, needs to do that. They needed to do that against Chicago. And wouldn't you know, Dak Prescott had like 3 rushes or something. Poor, moron. But anyway, Chicago, and now Anthony Miller's been more involved, which I've been confused as to why he hasn't been before that. But I don't know. Maybe Mitch Trubisky switched his cereal of choice in the morning, and now he sees Anthony Miller a little bit more. Eating more carrots, his vision's improving. I don't know. But Chicago, I mean, the reality is they're playing a lot better, a lot more like Chicago fans wanted them to play early in the season. So, yeah, man, they're going to be a tough beat. They're going to be a tough beat.
I know. And plus, it's a division game. That's tough. Okay, but Trubisky's been playing better. Let's slow down on the Russell Wilson comparisons.
No. I'm not comparing. I'm saying they need to do more of that stuff.
Okay, sure.
And they weren't doing that earlier in the year. By no means am I comparing Turd Biscuit to Russell Wilson. No
well, I hope
way.
Not. I just had to find out for sure before I ended our friendship.
Yeah, I know. Ended our friendship, and this is the series finale of the podcast.
Polarizing.
No.
I think I do know what you're saying. I do think that Green Bay matches up well against. With the Green Bay defense and the Chicago offense on the field, I think that's win Green Bay defense for sure. I think they'll keep Turd Biscuit in check, and I don't think that's going to be a problem for them. Okay? I do, however, think that the offensive side for Green Bay will be a big problem because they stink. Aaron, they stink. They stink, dude. They stink. Aaron Jones is the man, right? Aaron Jones is fabulous, bro.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I don't know what they're doing.
Outside of Aaron Rodgers, you would never complain about Aaron Rodgers, right?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell if the problem is him. It's difficult to say because is nobody getting open or is he not finding these guys?
I don't think anybody's getting open, bro. I don't think anybody's getting open. And this is now what, the 5th year you've been dealing with this? This is what you were killing McCarthy for, right?
Yes,
and,
yes. People are still not open.
People are still not open, and now has it been a McCarthy issue, or is it the reality that outside of Devontae Adams, everybody sucks? And I talk about this. We'll talk about Houston and Tennessee in a bit. So you know what? I'll just save that comment for them. But let me say this about Green Bay. Okay, they need a second receiver to open up the top. I say this about the Eagles. Once Deshaun Jackson went down, yeah, you're talking about a 30-plus wide receiver. It's not that big of a deal. It's a huge deal because he's your speed receiver. He goes over the tops. What is that? Over the top, what does that do? That means the safety in a cover, in a cover 2 or cover 3 or whatever, the safety is going to roll over and guard that side of the field because he's streaking deep and you can get behind him. Green Bay doesn't have a speed guy like that at all. And Geronimo Allison can't create separation out of the slot or anywhere else. Valdez-Scantling hasn't been able to do it or hadn't been able to do it. Kumro isn't able to do it. The only guy that looks like he can be an answer on the other side of the field at the split for Green Bay is Allen Lazard, and he doesn't get any snaps in spite of Aaron Rodgers liking him and saying, hey, this guy should get more snaps.
Well, I mean, like him or not, he's just some undrafted dude, let's be honest.
Yeah, but he's tall and he goes up and high points the ball and makes play. Every time I see the dude, it's like, man, he got that contested catch 30 yards downfield.
Here's the problem, man, is you have Aaron Rodgers, so you would have to think, well, you're ridiculous to face or base the offense around the run game. Like, you'd be silly to take that viewpoint, right?
Right.
However, we have no receivers. Jimmy Graham has cement shoes on. I swear to God, if I ever meet that guy, I'm going to tell him exactly what I think. He might be my least favorite Packer of all time. He's terrible, right? So there's no speed. There's no movement. Okay?
No.
We have this, I'm looking at San Francisco. There's George Kittle. There's Travis Kelce. All these guys.
You see that? Did you see that Kittle run down the sideline at the end of that New Orleans game, the San Francisco game, where he was getting face masked and three people, he was getting face masked and they still couldn't bring him down? That's what you want out of a tight end, not to mention his blocking. Jimmy Graham.
Not to mention his blocking. Jimmy Graham is like...
He's a liability. You're right, man. And we were watching that. We were watching the San Fran Green Bay game on Sunday night, and we saw that play. It was still a manageable game in that quarter, in like the first or second quarter, and we're like, one little play, and Aaron Rodgers, under duress, throws the ball like 30 yards on a flag route, and it hits Jimmy Graham, doink, right off the hands, and you and me looked at each other and said, that's the game.
That's right. We knew it. That was it.
And that was first or second quarter. San Francisco came down, got a touchdown, boom, that was it. Green Bay needed points.
Moments, he disappears. He's the smallest, and he actually tackled himself the other day. He actually got open, oddly enough, and ran for like 20 yards, but nobody touched him, and he tripped himself. It was like, of course, even on the good play, it's ridiculous. Anyways, my point was, you have Aaron Rodgers, and he's still fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Aaron Jones is the best thing we got going. And that guy is phenomenal. So I don't know. Maybe they just say, we are a power running team, and that is how we're going to approach this thing from now on.
So let me ask you a very serious question about Aaron Rodgers here. Was he a better quarterback with Olivia Munn or with Danica Patrick?
Olivia Munn for sure. You mean Yoko Patrick? I swear. She's got something. She's telling him the wrong shit at night, man. I promise you that, because it ain't going well. Look,
hey buddy. Funny. Hey, the audience wants to see that beautiful face of yours. Can you
what
move
happened?
your laptop? Yeah, there it is. There it is. We need to see more of that V. That's what this show is all about. The victory right here. Yeah.
The past two games.
Yeah.
It's been a bunch of non-existent offense, except for Aaron Jones, and then in the biggest moment, Aaron Rodgers comes up with a huge pass play on like 3rd and 15 that just completely saves everything, like a play no one should make, right? So he's still that guy, right?
No, I have undying faith in Aaron Rodgers' ability. I watch the games, man. I like watching the Packers. I'm not a fan of them, but because I'm kind of like a fan of Aaron Rodgers, not not a fanboy. I mean, I'll still bet against him in the league, and I am this week. But I think he's got it. He needs some help, man. And Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones are great, but when the NFL's the defensive coordinators are pretty smart too. When you're playing a team that doesn't have a tight end threat and can't stretch the field on the other side of the ball, you're like, screw it. Let's just triple team Devontae Adams. They can't get anybody open in man to man anywhere else.
They probably are. Nobody else is doing anything. Yeah. So.
Do it, Put three guys on them, stack the box, and play man-to-man on everybody else because nobody else can beat.
Right. That must be what's happening.
Yeah, let's move it on. Let's see. Next game I want to talk about, Houston, Tennessee. Now a surprisingly huge matchup. Both teams 8-5. Now here's the deal, Brad. 3 games left in the season. Both teams 8-5. They play each other 2 out of the 3 weeks. Winner of this game takes not only 1 game lead, but honestly, the next game doesn't even matter as much. All the team has to do is win these next 2 games, and that third matchup doesn't even matter. Now, if they split, obviously the next game will matter for both teams, but very interesting. Tennessee, you've heard me, man. I've been talking up this team, and even before the season, Brad, this is going to make you laugh. Okay, so before the season, you and I were railing on Marcus Mariota, right?
Yeah,
saying, like, how many more 10 touchdown, 13 interceptions do we need to see for you to put him on the bench? Tannehill was a guy that could get 4,000 yards at Miami. He took that team on a playoff run, even though he got injured before his playoff start. We're like, this guy is a viable quarterback. He can keep the offense on the field. Marcus Mariota can't. And we got nailed for that. We had a lot of Tennessee Titans telling us that we were wrong. So anyway, now that this has happened, as soon as they made that switch, I said, I like Tennessee a lot. They're going to be tough to beat. They're going to go on a playoff run. What did I say? 5 weeks ago, they're going to go on a run here. And outside it, I believe that Carolina game, I think they've won every game that Tannehill's played in at this point. At least every game that they've started. Now, going back to that Mariota thing, I was talking about Mariota, and I'm still getting people when I talk about Mariota tell me that I'm wrong about Mariota. What do we need to see?
I don't know what the deal is. I don't understand it either.
Goodness gracious.
I don't get it.
It's like Jameis Winston. Yeah, great. He throws for 50 touchdowns. He throws for 75 interceptions. What do we need to see? You can't do that. Anyway, but back to Tennessee, though. Instead of us tooting our own horn here, why don't we actually talk about the team? Dude, Tannehill looked great against Oakland. Now, Houston's going to be tougher against that. Derrick Henry's banged up, which isn't great. What concerns me more than that, because I think Henry will just be just fine in play, what concerns me is Tennessee's secondary's banged up, man. They're down to their cornerbacks, and a team like Houston that can pass the ball, that could be a bad matchup. I think, Brad, I forgot. Let's see. You picked Tennessee, right?
No, I think I picked Houston.
You pick Houston? I marked you down wrong. I'm going to take Houston big if here, Will Fuller plays. If he doesn't play, I'm taking Tennessee. And here's what I was just saying this with Green Bay, and I'm telling you, this is like, I've been paying a lot of attention to Houston because I enjoy watching them play. I enjoy watching the offense play. When Will Fuller's in the game, he is so fast, nobody can keep him in front of him. It's almost like Tyler Lockett in Seattle, Deshaun Jackson. There's certain receivers that you just cannot cover and keep him in front of you, right? And Will Fuller is that guy. So when he makes this offense for Houston vertical, what ends up happening, a couple of things happen. First of all, teams cannot double or triple cover DeAndre Hopkins, just like what they're doing in Green Bay to Devontae Adams, right? They can't do that because they're like, we got this other guy on the field who's pretty darn good. He can catch touchdown passes. And you see a lot of these, Will Fuller, he'll get 4 catches for like 150 yards because he's catching these bombs. And Watson likes to throw bombs. And even if they don't complete those passes, the defense has to respect it. So even if he comes up with two catches for 40 yards, it doesn't matter because they take the shots and defenses have to respect it, because if they don't, that's when Fuller gets like a 3 touchdown day, right? Next thing that happens, in addition to DeAndre Hopkins, who by the way is awesome, still one of my favorite receivers in the league even without Fuller, things open up now over the middle because that creates more space between your linebackers and your safeties. So now Darren Fells is more relevant. Then Kiki QT and Kenny Stills is more relevant. And because of that space, because the linebackers have to drift back a little bit more, that creates more space now for Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson underneath. This offense is completely different with Will Fuller in the game. When Will Fuller isn't in the game, the offense looks surprisingly, Brad, like Green Bay's offense. Suddenly they're throttling DeAndre Hopkins. Now DeAndre Hopkins in my mind is still just a step above in terms of quality Devontae Adams. So you still see DeAndre Hopkins get in the end zone. You'll still see him having 100-yard 1 to 2 touchdown games more than Devontae Adams can, in spite of sometimes being triple covered, just because he's a monster. No disrespect to Devontae Adams by any stretch, but this offense can't even run the ball usually with Will Fuller out. So to me, it all hinges on whether or not Will Fuller will play. I'm watching the injury report. I'm telling you, I'm putting a lot of money on Tennessee this week if Fuller is out. Thoughts, Brad? That was a big ramble by me.
That's okay. Get it out.
It's all out now. It's all out there.
Get it out.
So you like Houston. Tell me why you like Houston a little bit.
Just Deshaun Jackson. I like him. Or sorry, Watson.
Deshaun Jackson. That would be.
I like him. I like him too.
Quarterback in the read.
Deshaun Watson. Yeah, for sure. I dig him. I have faith in him. I think he's a baller, and I think he's one of the rare guys that can actually win the game for your team, no matter what else is going on, no matter who else is on the field. I think he's one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you there, dude. And oh goodness, so I think I have Houston. I don't know. I believe Bovada has them somewhere around plus 2,500 or something like that to win the Super Bowl. I think that's a great futures bet for the Super Bowl if Will Fuller can stay healthy. But that dude's hamstring, I don't know. It's like made of violin string. Every time you just stretch it all, it's going to pop on him. So it's frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for Houston fans. But anyway, that's enough of that game. Let's see. What else are we going to talk about? The LA Rams -1 at the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think of that one?
Oh my God! I mean, what would lead us to think that the Cowboys are going to win that game?
Yeah, the Rams finally are given the ball to Todd Gurley. Even McVay, and we were talking before about is it okay to criticize? Is it the right to criticize so and so? I can't remember who we were talking about, but it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady earlier in the episode. Is it right to criticize him? I was like, well, he's misses throws. He's the GOAT. Don't get me wrong, but he's missing throws. You can criticize him. Well, Sean McVay, yeah, he's the baby GOAT, right? He's the boy genius. He left Todd Gurley, and he left the identity of this offense, what they've been building for the last 2.5 years.
Right.
And, what do we get? And so, now that they're finally going back, wouldn't you know it, the Rams are starting to win some games. You give Todd Gurley 25 touches a game, maybe 20 carries, 5 receptions, you win the game. They win the game. 90% of the time they win that. This season would have been no different, but, they got too cute and too smart, and I still think McVay wakes up with a cold sweat thinking about Belichick, seeing Belichick's face everywhere, and he's just trying to think, how do I beat Belichick in the Super Bowl? It's over and done with, man. Go back to what you do. Go back to what you do, because you make the Super Bowl doing that, and then you can worry about that later. But anyway, I agree with you. Dallas, man, their defense is looking awful. They're giving up 20.5 points a game defensively. Not great. 20.2 at home, so not even a home boost there. Offensively, they actually score more at home, just a little bit by a shade, but man, I think the LA Rams, I think they'll get it going. That defense is playing really well. Dak Prescott, I think he needs to use his legs more. I've been saying that for a while. Make him a little bit more dynamic, move the pocket a little bit. It's obvious they don't want to do that. I don't see it, man. Do you see any scenario here where the Rams don't continue their run?
Well, I don't. The Cowboys haven't beat a good team all season. I mean, they literally have not beat a good team all season.
Yeah.
How many in a row have they lost? Has it been two?
You know what? I lost track. 6 and 7. Losing. I know that.
Yeah, they're 6 and 7. They may have been 6 and 4 at one point. I forget as well, but I do know that they have not beat anybody worth a you know what.
Yeah.
And they got fat and happy off bad teams. They probably a lot of Giants in there, and even the worst team they played, the Jets, beat the crap out of them, right? So I don't think they stand a chance. I honestly don't.
Yeah.
I don't think they stand a chance, and it's like, if we give this bravado or this prestige or so much respect to Dallas, it's like we think they're better than they are. They're a terrible team.
Yeah, they're bad. Nobody in the NFC
bad
East.
Football team.
Nobody in the NFC East deserves to make the playoffs, in my opinion.
But they're Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's
Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia and Doug Peterson have this cachet, like, they're just going to put it together. This is a different season, dude. Like. Yeah, both teams I think are under 500 at this point. I think they're both 6 and 7, battling it out. The winner of this division, it would not shock me if they're a 9-loss team. This is how bad this division is. Washington, I think, is 3 and 10, maybe 4 and 9. I think they're 3 and 10. They're still in the playoff chase.
Oh my God,
that's how bad that
can't be. That can't be true.
Mathematically, I'm not sure that they've been eliminated yet. Seriously.
Well, you know what? Yeah.
No, they must have been. If they're a 10-loss team, they must be, because Dallas and
well,
Philadelphia,
not necessarily, Because they could all go 6-10
No,
theoretically.
because of that Dallas versus Philly matchup, one of them has to at least get a tie in that
Win.
game.
Yeah, right.
So I
Right.
think they have
Okay.
now officially been mathematically eliminated, but they weren't going into last week, which is
But they
pretty
weren't
interesting.
going to last week with 9 losses.
Yeah, if they somehow managed that, they would be 2 games behind with 3 to go. But anyway, last game I want to talk about Denver versus Kansas City. Now, this is probably a dud to a lot of people. I want to give some respect to Denver and what they've been doing defensively. They've been playing better and better, and they've been ravaged on the defensive side by injuries. The guy that was supposed to be their their Khalil Mack, was hurt, and Bradley Chubb early in the season. They've been dealing with defensive line injuries, and they're still stringing together good defensive games. Now, Kansas City's defense is getting better, and we saw them against New England. Ever since the bye week, they've been kind of rolling here. I think this Kansas City team is back, Brad. What do you think?
I do. I don't think they ever really went anywhere. I think they just kind of lost their way a little bit, if that makes sense.
I feel
I
like
think an injury took over, and
Yeah, and I think maybe some of it was, Spagnuolo, it's his first year as a defensive coordinator. I don't think this defense is playing particularly well to start the season, but they're playing well now. If anything, that Mahomes injury did, I think this defense was like, we got to get it together now or our season could fall away from us. And the defense, like, they came up in New England when they had to. Now, granted, we know what happened there. We talked about at the beginning of the show with the out of bounds. We talked at the beginning of the show with the pass interference, but bottom line is, Kansas City won, and they held Patriots to a reasonable amount of points, and their offense scored more than they allowed. So there you go.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Denver though with Drew Lock, I think it's an interesting game. 10 points for me in this game is too much to lay. I think, Brad, you took Denver when I was marking the picks down. I took Kansas City, but it's too much for me to lay because Drew Lock is playing efficient football. But like you said, it's only a matter of time before these defensive coordinators will get enough tape on teams to shut them down. Really, I think, by the way, Denver, all they're doing is screwing their draft position. But it's probably good for Drew Lock, right? Because if he wins enough games, he'll be the starter next year, and they won't draft the number 1 quarterback coming out of the draft next year.
And he's been good, but I think the fairy tale comes to an end because that's what we've been seeing, right? Like, okay, you've played well, and that's fine, but
I'm thinking he gets one more good game, and then
Right.
he'll start to come back down to earth a little bit. Not to say he won't be good next year. I'm just saying, like you said, I think defenses will catch up to him.
yeah, the league will catch up. So I think Kansas City. I still think with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they have to be considered a favorite still in the AFC.
I agree, man.
Right? Why wouldn't they be?
Their number, their number during that Patrick Mahomes thing, their line dropped to something like, I don't know, 1,200 or something like that. They've shot back up now to plus 700 after that Patriots win. Gonna be interesting, man. We'll see how all that shakes out. All right, everybody, and that was the Pick 6. Now, what does the betting universe think about the picks? Let's bring on Dave Mason and play that interview right now. All right, and we are here with the man from BetOnline.ag, Dave Mason. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. Yourself?
I'm doing all right. So for those of you, on the podcast, I think you probably know the drill. For the YouTube audience out there, once again, everybody, it's youtube.com/theunderdog. For those of you who aren't familiar, Dave and I have actually known each other. What would you say, for about a year and a half now at this point, Dave?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so with what we've been doing with the Get Paid podcast, again, I'm kind of repeating myself for a lot of the YouTube, the podcast crowd, but for the YouTube crowd, we bring Dave on and we talk about lines, and I love talking to Dave because he always tells us kind of where the money's going, and what I've learned from Dave over the time is, you get early money, and that the sharp money, the wise guy money doesn't really come in until later in the week. So today we're actually recording on a Wednesday, so a lot of that wise guy money is not in yet. But is it better if you notice that lines move, from the beginning of the week to the end of the week? That's where the money's starting to come in, and the books are adjusting on it. But Dave, what I wanted to do, talk to you about today is, since Brad and I kind of shifted and we're doing a pick 6, and then we also have the RoccoBot, the computer projection picks that are at for the top 5 picks every week are at 60%, believe it or not, for the year. RoccoBot is out-dueling me by a wide margin. I thought, I always love doing this. I'd love to see where the money is going. So I have Brad and me, our pick, and you can kind of be our ombudsman, I guess, our unofficial ombudsman. And then I want to get where RoccoBot's going, because RoccoBot has some picks out there that I generally disagree with this week. However, like I said, he is outperforming me. So let's just dig right in if you're cool with that, man.
Let's do it.
All right, man. So Buffalo, Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh's at +1.5. Now, Brad and I are both on Buffalo in this game. I will be honest with you. After seeing what Baltimore's blitz did to Josh Allen last week, I'm a little concerned. What is the betting community looking at this point? I believe this game is in Pittsburgh and flexed out to Sunday night.
Yeah, the betting community is all over Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah, about 84% of the early bettors so far are on Buffalo and +1.5. It's +2, I believe, yesterday, so down to +1.5. So yeah, well, looking like we'll be big time Steelers fans Sunday night. That'll be a humongous decision.
Yeah, and you know this game kind of has it because. I'll be honest with you. So I was low on Buffalo until I actually talked to you, and you kind of opened my eyes to this because it was one of these very segments where you said, "Oh, we were talking about over-unders for the season," and I was sleeping on Buffalo. And you said, no, the betting community is huge on Buffalo this year. And I remember saying, what? Why in the world are they on them? Well, I swear to you, Dave, after I watched that segment, I started watching preseason as I do because of the book, and I got to watch the preseason and all that. And I started thinking, wow, those bettors are onto something. And so I started, thanks to you, Dave, I started paying attention to Buffalo early, and they're really good. My problem is this game it kind of reminds me of what the Rams, they were coming in and they're – I wouldn't say they were riding high, the Rams, early in the season, but they had that pocket passer, and Jared Goff was just sacked and just, bludgeoned to that whole game. I'm worried about Josh Allen this week for that one, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Defense be the name of the game Sunday night with that total 36.5. So good old fashioned.
I'll be honest. Where's the money coming on the over under? Because I'm kind of on the under on that one. I'm not going to bet it.
It's about 50-50 right now. It's about 50-50. So no real need right as of yet.
I would not be shocked if that was like a 16-13 game. I'm sitting on the under on that, but like I said, I won't put my money on that because it's too low of a number for me. But that's a close one. Okay, so next one, Brad and I have Chicago. +4. I believe they opened up 4.5, but I just checked before the recording. They're at +4 as of the time of this recording versus Green Bay. Now, I'm on Chicago. Brad's on Green Bay. Which one of us is right in terms of where the public money is going at this point?
There's not a big decision as of yet.
Yeah.
It's about 57% of the early action is on Green Bay. So I think that'll go up come Sunday. I think that the action will go a little bit more. I think it'll be in the 65% range. But as of now, about 57% of the action's on the Packers.
So have you noticed a trend by any chance of like Green Bay betting? Or do you think whether it's futures or whether it's just game lines? Because my impression, I'm a little bit more sour on them the last 2 or 3 weeks than I have been throughout the year. That bad Chargers loss aside, I'm starting to get more and more worried about what this offense is able to do. Have you noticed any kind of metrics in the betting side of that, or am I just kind of going off on my own tangent here?
Not too much yet, but it usually takes a few weeks to bettors to adjust and paint a different picture on teams and everything. So we'll see this weekend.
Yep. Next game on the list we have is Denver +10. Versus Kansas City. Now, I actually like Kansas City in this game, although I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not going to put money on this one because, again, that's a lot of points delay. But then you have basically Denver playing a little bit better. Brad likes Denver because of the 10-point spread. Kansas City, I don't feel great about it, but where's the betting community at on that one?
Actually, this is kind of rare. I mean, again, it's early action, so this could all change the next few days. But the bettors are all over the Broncos as double-digit underdogs. So, usually when they're underdog by that many points, the bettors aren't going to be on the dog
right.
that many points. But, seeing what they did last week,
right.
Impressive win at the Texans and the week before there, Chargers. So, like I said, bettors kind of adjust on a fly. And if there's something, that they'll hop on the hot team overnight, So the Broncos are a hot team all of a sudden. So and double-digit points for a hot team is so. I'm not surprised the majority bettors are on the Broncos, but that did definitely catch my eye that it's so one-sided as of now.
Wow.
Especially against the Chiefs too. Chiefs are starting to roll here. So
I guess
we'll see.
Is Drew Lock the new Patrick Mahomes? Is that what we're hearing from the betting community out there?
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, but
yeah,
should be interesting.
Next game on the list, we had Houston and Tennessee. Huge game in the AFC South. Now, Brad is on Tennessee. I'm withholding my judgment because I want to see what's happening with the Will Fuller injury. Personally, I think Will Fuller, Houston's offense just doesn't seem to go when they don't have that vertical component to it, and they don't have any answer when Will Fuller's out, and so teams kind of clamp down a little bit on the Texans. So I'm going to wait. If Fuller is out, I'm going to take Tennessee. If Fuller is in, I'm going to take Houston. However, I'm sure the betting community does not care at that level of granularity. So what are you seeing on your side right now?
Again, not a huge decision, but early action, 58% of the bettors are on Houston.
Yeah.
+3, -120. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's good value whenever you have Deshaun Watson getting 3 points, and I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched, but I worry, man. I worry about that. Then again, Tennessee's secondary kind of sucks right now, so I guess we'll find out. Let's see, 5th game on our list, the Rams and Dallas. Now, Brad and I are both on the Rams on this one. It's Rams -1. Where's the money go? It's got to be on the Rams, right? Public money at this point?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, this is shaping up to be a humongous decision. About 90% of the early action is on the Rams. So, you have a Dallas team that's just been struggling. And then the Rams seem to be turning around, right? Finally living up to the hype. And, those are always those biggest decisions. The good team, laying small points like a field goal, and they have 4.5 to -1 on the road against a bad team, and the book always expects to get pounded on the road favorites there, and this is definitely the case here. About 90% of the early bettors are on the Rams, so this is going to be a sweat.
So when do you think, like as a sports book, when do you guys look at moving that line more towards towards the Cowboys getting some more points, if that's the way it's going?
Well, it's going there. So they're +1, -104. It depends. If the Sharks aren't nibbling, then it's going to move, right? So if it's just much on game day or coming up to close to game day, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then it'll try it out at +1.5 and go from there. But once the sharps hit, it doesn't matter if it's 99% of the people are on the other side. That line's not going to move too much.
Sure. And then lastly, we got the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints. Indianapolis +9. Now, Brad and I, and we'll use this as a segue into the next segment as well for us, but Brad and I are both on New Orleans to cover coming off a loss. Now, RoccoBot, my computer pick, is unanimously picking and loves this pick, one of the top 5 picks on Indianapolis. So that always gives me concern when RoccoBot and I don't agree because, once again, RoccoBot's so much better than I am this season. But where's the money going at this point?
Yeah, well, RoccoBot might be on the right side here, according to the early trends, because that is down to 8, even though 63% of the early better, even though 63% of the early bettors are on New Orleans. So
interesting.
Little early reverse line movement going on, which kind of tells you something. RoccoBot might be on something here.
Old RoccoBot. And for people who don't know, so Brad and I both used to work with a Rocco back when we had a more professional job, and I basically asked an artist to turn him into a robot. And that's what I call my pick and shit. So we named him after this goofball we used to work with, so RoccoBot. But he's pretty damn good at making picks, I'll say that. Okay, so I got 5 more for RoccoBot. We can probably move through that pretty quick. New England -9. RoccoBot's on New England, and RoccoBot's favorite bet of the week. And actually, RoccoBot was on New England -10, so the line has actually gone back into RoccoBot's favor. But where's the money going there?
New England, as usual. I mean, I thought it. And again, this is one of those. As for the early money, it's one of a huge decision. 92% of the early action is on the Patriots -9. So another, even though the Patriots have been come down to earth as far as the covering the spread this season, thank God, because they just kill us every year. And finally, we're getting some of that money back. Everybody always makes fun of me about whining and complaining about them every year, but this year I haven't whined and complained about them too much, but this will be one of those games this weekend. So you would think after the last few results that it wouldn't be so one-sided. But then again, they're playing the Bengals, so that's why that is.
Yeah, I hear you. Next one I have now. I don't love this one so much. RoccoBot likes San Francisco minus 11. Anytime I see a double-digit point, I don't love laying it down. But San Francisco minus 11 versus Atlanta. Now San Francisco's at home. What worries me is the secondary, and just San Francisco has a lot of injuries, and I think Atlanta's offense matches up well with. So I'm a little bit apprehensive. But again, San Francisco minus 11. RoccoBot likes laying the points. Likes San Francisco there. What do you think?
Early action, Atlanta's the play right there.
Really?
So
okay.
Again, take that for what it's worth. But as of now, and I expect that to change. I don't think it's going to stay like that. I think that's just early action, But about 63% of the early bettors are on Atlanta in the points. But I don't expect us to be Niners fans come Sunday.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Fourth game of the list, because we already talked about Indianapolis and New Orleans. Philadelphia minus 4.5 now. I believe the line was 6 to open up, if I'm not mistaken, but it's down to 4.5 versus Washington. Now, Philadelphia's wide receivers are obviously decimated with injury at this point, but Washington wants to run the ball. Philadelphia's run defense is good. I don't see how Washington scores more than 9 points in this game, honestly. So I'm actually in agreement with RoccoBot. We're both taking Philadelphia. What are you seeing right now in the betting public? Are they scared of the Eagles' injuries at this point?
No. Again,
Neither would I be.
I think this is kind of like the Patriots game where I would expect just the following week the people be fading the Eagles, but then again, it's like, okay, they're playing the Redskins, just like the Patriots are playing. Okay, they're playing right. So who else are you going to bet on? Are you going to bet on the Bengals and the Skins? No, you're going to auto fade those.
Yeah, sure.
Bet whoever they're playing. So how the Eagles have played recently, I'm surprised as many bettors are on them. However, it's just because they're playing the Skins. The people are just it's more of one of those bets they're fading the Skins rather than betting on the Eagles, right?
I think it's a great play. I really do.
Yeah,
you're an Eagles fan, right?
Yeah. I'm from that part of the world, so it's been oh my God, it's been so tedious watching that team this year. So it's been something else. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I hear you. Now we actually already touched on this game, Denver and Kansas City. Now RoccoBot likes Denver plus 10. And we actually already said that the betting public, that was one of the games that they were surprised. I was surprised that RoccoBot likes Denver plus 10, but that was interesting. So we can move it on to the last game here. Tampa Bay now minus 3 at Detroit. I like RoccoBot and I both like Tampa Bay in this game, but what's the betting public looking like?
The betting public likes Tampa Bay as well. And they're minus 3, minus 125. They were minus 3.5 yesterday. So. Yeah. About, let me see here. Let me refresh my memory. About 71% of their early bettors are on Tampa Bay minus 3.
Well, I'll be curious because by the time we air this, it'll be the weekend, at least on YouTube. It'll be the weekend. So, if people, this is why I love this too, because when people are going to be checking the lines at BetOnline and see how the lines have moved, we'll know that the sharp money's had to start its influence. So they'll know which way this is going as well. So that'll always be fun. Well, Dave, man, that's all I got, man. Do you have anything for us? Do you want to plug BetOnline a little bit before we head out?
Why the hell wouldn't I? BetOnline.ag. Hit up the promos page for all sorts of bonuses, crypto bonuses, non-crypto bonuses. We have the best live betting software in there. The earliest opening odds for next weekend's football games. Reduced juice NHL hockey. Goes on and on. Totals on every college basketball game.
Oh,
a lot
nice.
of folks don't have that anymore, so that's worth mentioning now that college basketball is a full swing.
I love those crypto bonuses, dude. Your bonuses are pretty sick where it comes to crypto, so I definitely recommend anybody who's comfortable with that, even if you're not comfortable with that, get comfortable with it. That's what I say. So.
That's right.
Yeah, all right. Hey, Dave, man, always love it. Always love this
Awesome,
segment. Love to have you back on this show. I love kind of what we're doing with the new format here, and I love you being our ombudsman and keeping us sane here with the lines and the movement and all that stuff. So love to have you back anytime you can be back.
All right, anytime you want, bud. Take care. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, man. Have a good one, boss.
Take care.
Peace. All right, man, that was cool.
Awesome, bud.
All right, man. Hey, have a great rest of the day. Great week.
You too. Later.
All right into the game plan. This is all about the LA Rams versus Dallas Cowboys. I give you the path to victory for both teams, and then I also give you the fantasy football computer projections via RoccoBot for both teams as well. So let's dig right in, as I always do, with the key injuries. The Rams, in terms of injuries, have a fairly clean sheet. Only Gerald Everett is questionable. The Dallas Cowboys, the right side of their their offensive line is questionable. A few key guys, including Van Der Esch, that's the big one. He's doubtful right now. Byron Jones being up on the injury list is interesting. It's interesting to see him on there. I would expect him to play, but we'll talk about that as we get into the game plan. Let's talk about the key stats now. These are in terms of yardage accumulation. Position group versus position group. So you see the Rams passing offense is 6th versus the 7th ranked passing defense for the Cowboys. Vice versa, the pass offense for the Cowboys is 1st in the league versus the 10th ranked but improving LA Rams defense, passing defense. Run, the Rams are 21st. No surprise there because they went away from Gurley early and often versus the 19th ranked running defense for the Cowboys. And then again, vice versa, 10th ranked rushing offense for the Cowboys and the 12th ranked rushing defense for the LA Rams. Now, what's interesting here, before we move on to the key analytics, usually when you see a team first, or sometime in the top 5 in the passing offense, you don't see as high of a ranking, a top 10 ranking in the running offense. So basically, what that says is Dallas, when they play teams, they can move the ball. Now, are they scoring enough to win? Are they taking care of the ball? Let's talk about that in the next slide here. The analytics, the key analytics, basically, professional gamblers, they usually just start every game. They look at some key metrics, right? Yards per play, situational football, 3rd down, 4th down, red zone, and then turnover margin. So if we just examine that, you see the LA Rams, they get 5.8 yards per play. The Cowboys defense gives up 5.2. Then you look at the Cowboys offense, they get 6.5, which is a great number. The Rams only give up 4.9. But if you average these out, it gives a slight advantage to the Dallas Cowboys just in terms of pure averages there. But then you roll down to a situational football. Okay, 3rd down percentage, 4th down percentage for the Rams is bad offensively. Sean McVay team, it's surprising. I mean, I'm not shocked by this because I've been looking at it all season, but you would expect that number to be higher. Generally speaking, I can tell you there's correlation with these conversion numbers to teams that can run the ball with success. As I said a little bit earlier, Sean McVay goes away from the run a little bit too early, though he has been going back to it as of late, and wouldn't you know it, the Rams have gone on a little bit of a run. The Cowboys, meanwhile, their defense is sputtering right now, and I think it's because of Van Der Esch. Ever since he went out, this defense has been struggling. Okay, he's the heart and soul of it. He's probably not going to play this weekend. The defense, you can see 3rd down, 4th down percentages, over 50 and under 50 respectively, but the offense is much better. I would say just based on how teams are playing in the last few weeks, I would give the advantage to the Rams here. The running game's going better. Dallas's defense is going to continue to reel until Van Der Esch comes back. This is going to be a struggle, I think, for Dallas this week, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the game plans. Red zone percentage, again, there's correlation. Teams that can run the ball tend to score better, and that's what you're seeing in this matchup here. Now, let's move it on to the Rams' path to victory. First and foremost, as I say every week, give the ball to Gurley. Run, run, run. It opens up play action. It opens up different windows for Jared Goff to throw to. Jared Goff is a more efficient quarterback when he has a strong running game, and even if your offensive line can't produce 5 yards a carry, that's fine. Just be patient with it. You see John Gruden in Oakland earlier in the season when he had a full complement of players, patient with Josh Jacobs running the ball. Just be patient, Sean McVay, with Todd Gurley. 3rd down, 4th down percentage is awful, like I said. Got to clean that up. 3rd and manageable will help that. Getting that running game going and not straying will help that as well. Van Der Esch being out is going to hurt and limit the Dallas Cowboys, and Sean Lee's on the injury report as well. I say you got to work that middle of the field. Cooper Kupp, whether it's Tyler Higbee or Gerald Everett or both, and Todd Gurley. Work them. Just get everybody into the middle of that field because that's where Dallas is going to be hurting, and that's how you get into those favorable situations. Now, Dallas holds the advantage in situational football. The Rams need to limit Zeke, okay? That's not earth-shattering news by any means. It's just the truth, okay? The 10th ranked rushing offense is going to be there, but the Rams are going to want Dak Prescott to try to push the ball downfield. Do I think he'll be able to do it? He will have some success in it. I don't know what it's going to mean for wins and loss at this point. I favor the Rams just based on how they were playing recently. The Rams are coming into this game as a -1, so they are favored in Vegas odds and everything, but it's going to be a close, hard-fought game. The Rams coming in a little bit healthier. I like that, or I like their chances. And then with Byron Jones hurt, I think you got to test him deep early, if for no other reason than just to stretch out this defense and give some more room underneath. Now, the Cowboys' path to victory, basically just bait McVay into playing a pass-first approach. Put 8 men in the box. Basically run blitz and blitz Jared Goff. Okay, just run everybody up. Jared Goff, it plays a little bit uncomfortable when he gets hit early. So stack the box. Try to get them to throw. Now, maybe I take that back if Byron Jones isn't 100%. But if they can cover the receivers, stack the box, make McVay go away from Gurley early. I didn't purposely rhyme that, but I think that will play into Dallas's favor. Move the pocket for Dak. Don't ignore his athleticism. I think that was my big criticism in that Dallas versus New England game. You got to roll the pocket. You got to move the pocket. I'm not enamored, and I don't think even Cowboys fans are enamored with this coaching staff. They're not very creative. By the way, one of my notes on the bottom, my very bottom note, they're not very aggressive either. I can't tell you how many times I see, Jason Garrett, Cowboys team down by like 21, and he'll go for a field goal with like 7 minutes left. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Some aggression, some reality for that coaching staff would be helpful. Randall Cobb and Witten, I think they have some matchups that they can exploit this week. Now, the Rams are going to feel good about covering. I still think Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup will have nice games, but if Randall Cobb and Jason Witten can live in the middle, just like I was saying before, if Kupp and Tyler Higbee can work in the middle, I think that's where Dallas is going to be able to win this game. And then Dak, prove you're a franchise quarterback. This is the game that you're going to be able to do that. So get it going, pass early and often, hit your receivers, and move that pocket. Use that athleticism. Take a page out of Russell Wilson's book. If they're giving you 5 yards, take those 5 yards. 3 steps in a slide, man. That's all it takes. So let's look at the RoccoBot computer projections for each player, each key player in this position, or in this game, I should say. Jared Goff, 15.5. That is a sit grade. Todd Gurley at a 12.8 is as a start. I don't know that he gets in the end zone, but I think he's a definite start. Let's see. Malcolm Brown, by the way, I would sit. I know he might snake a touchdown, but I don't need a 1 carry for 2 yards and 0 touchdown game for him in the playoffs, and I don't think you do either. Brandon Cooks is a sit at a 7. Robert Woods is a definite start at 11.5. Cooper Kupp is a definite start at 15.9. I think Kupp gets into the end zone. Tyler Higbee at a 5.5. I don't love it this week, especially if Gerald Everett plays. That could be a tight end by committee, and I don't love that. The defense and special teams, though, I think that's worth a play. I think they will be able to sack Dak Prescott, maybe even force a couple of turnovers. Now, for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott is a definite start at a 21. Zeke Elliott is a definite start at a 16, and I think he scores. Tony Pollard, I would sit. Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, I would definitely start them. I think they could both get a touchdown. Even Randall Cobb, if you're super desperate in the slot, I like him, assuming he can play. Jason Witten, that's kind of a fringe but not start for him, so I don't love him this week. And the Dallas Cowboys defense, I don't love as much either, but we'll see how it shakes out. So there you go. There's the game plan, and let's move it forward right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. And as I do, let's just dig into those injuries. The Pittsburgh Steelers, big name, right? Juju Smith-Schuster, he's on the injury list. Vance McDonald, who oftentimes, honestly, they ignore. And then, linebacker, not the biggest deal in the world. Now, for the Bills, just a guard. So actually, in terms of injuries go, this is a pretty clean sheet. If you're looking at positional groupings, the key stats here, passing offense, 31st for Pittsburgh. That's not going to win you a Super Bowl, Pittsburgh. I'm just being honest with you. It's just not going to get it done. Now, the 31st passing offense in the league, ranked against the 3rd best passing defense in the league, is going to be a running day for Pittsburgh, or at least it should be. We never really know with them. Now, Buffalo, their passing offense, 27th versus the 5th ranked passing defense for Buffalo. I don't think we're going to see a lot of passing yards. That's what the stats are basically saying. They're kind of screaming in everybody's face. Run offense versus run defense. Run offense for Pittsburgh, 24th. So to sum up, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 24th ranked running offense. The 31st ranked passing offense. Not so good. The Bills, 14th ranked run defense. The matchup here for Buffalo, or for Pittsburgh, the path to victory, I think, offensively, is to run the ball and keep the passing short. But we'll see if they do that. That's not really the play caller Randy Fichtner's style. Now, for the Buffalo Bills, run offense, 5th. run defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ninth, again, path to success, I would say, based on Buffalo's success, is to run. I think we're going to see a smash-mouth, old-school game this week. This one has massive implications. The 5th and the 6th seed, respectively, in the playoffs. If the Bills win, they're basically insured of getting in. I mean, it would be very hard for them to screw that up. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they win, all of a sudden they really improve their standing. But if they lose, then Tennessee, maybe even Oakland, if they can pull off a victory, gets back in the picture. Although I don't think so. You have different teams. The loser of that Tennessee-Houston game is going to be a factor. So Pittsburgh really needs this. Both teams, in my opinion, really need this game. Very interesting. Let's move it to the key analytics. Yards per play, Pittsburgh under 5 yards per play. No bueno, Pittsburgh. Buffalo defensively only gives up 4.8. That's pretty solid. Buffalo averages 5.3 yards per play offensively. Pittsburgh, again, under 5. So not bad. But, for a team that's in the playoff hunt, and they're getting less than 5 yards per play, that defense has to be a little bit more dominant, in my opinion. Now, they're damn good. Don't get me wrong. They're certainly a top defense. I've been touting them for the entire season. But, I'm not really a buyer until Devlin Hodges can show me he can throw the ball and distribute the way that Fichtner wants him to in this offensive system. Situational football, 3rd down percentage, 4th down percentage, not surprising for Pittsburgh, not great. Not surprising for me for Buffalo that they're not particularly great either. Everything's under 40%. We're going to see a lot of punts in this game with these two strong defenses. So get ready for there. Who has the best kicker, right? Who has the best kicker in this game? Red zone percentages, same kind of deal here. Buffalo, I think, has the slight advantage here offensively, but then, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say slight. They have a significant advantage offensively, and it probably comes down to their run game being a little bit more successful, but defensively they give up a little bit more. I'm leaning towards Buffalo probably being my favorite to win this game on the road. They're getting 1.5 points in this game. However, remember what Baltimore's pass rush did to Josh Allen last week. He was poor against the blitz, and we're going to see the result of that. I'm sure that Buffalo worked on some things in their off time in this week. You look at turnover margin, both teams pretty solid. So let's just swing it right now to the path to victory. Specifically, right now we're going to start with the Steelers. Bills' defense is too strong to play a deep downfield passing game. I've been saying this. I've been critical. I think Pittsburgh needs to keep it short, involve their running backs in the passing game, involve Vance McDonald, and if he's injured, Nick Vannett, involve him as well. The way to attack Buffalo is by running. Again, you have James Conner back. Benny Snell looks pretty good. See what you can do in the running game. Just run it down their throat. Blitz relentlessly defensively. See if make him beat you defensively, okay? Or with that blitz. Make him beat the blitz because he couldn't last week. Frankly, I think Buffalo probably should have tied that game up against Baltimore last week. They were close. They had opportunities. Josh Allen couldn't get it done. Make him prove that he can adjust to a tough blitz, and Pittsburgh has a tough blitz for sure. Be ready for Singletary in the flats. Like I said, I'm sure Buffalo's been working on getting the ball out of Allen's hand quickly. I'm sure they will be expecting blitz in the game plan. You need to be ready for Singletary in the flats and Beasley on slants. And then the red zone percentage. Look, that's the big liability coming into this matchup from an analytics point of view. It's got to get better, okay? You can't just assume that you're going to win this game, 13-9, because Buffalo can win games 13-9 as well. You need to really punch those in. For Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Now, Pittsburgh, obviously, they're going to blitz. Josh Allen, learn from last week. Learn what Philadelphia also did. Pittsburgh did to the Rams as well. Pittsburgh tried to make Jared Goff uncomfortable, and they were very successful at that a few weeks ago. Involve those guys. Like I said, Pittsburgh's got to be ready for Singletary and Beasley. Josh Allen has to distribute to Dawson Knox, Tyler Kroft as tight ends as well. Josh Allen throwing the deep ball likely isn't going to work, although they do think that they need to take those shots. I'm a big believer in taking shots, even if they're low percentage plays. Just don't throw interceptions, but take the shots. You got to make them at least respect the fact that you're going to move to more read option. Try some read option. Josh Allen, big dude. He runs not as well as Lamar Jackson, but who does run as well as him? But he's mobile, so move the pocket. Use some read action. I think that will help. Okay, so this should be a defensive struggle, right? We know that. take care of the ball. You can't be flipping the field. You can't be super aggressive. Don't go through for a lot of 4th and 3s because those are going to be, in my opinion, and we saw it on the previous slide, low percentage plays. Take care of the ball. Don't flip. I think conservative play favors Buffalo in this game. So, just take care of the ball and don't be super aggressive. Expect the Steelers to have success shutting down key weapons. Knox, McKenzie at wide receiver, got to win the battles, okay? Those are big deals. And then better kick your field goals, better hit them. I think this game could seriously come down to which field goal kicker, or I should say kicker, right? Which kicker plays the better, more accurate game, and we'll see. Now, fantasy football-wise, I don't love a lot, let me be honest with you. If all this talk about defense and field goals hasn't really tripped your trigger or at least given you some kind of inclination where I'm going with this, Devlin Hodges is a sit. I think he's my bottom 1 or bottom 2 quarterback this week. James Conner is a start, though. I do think James Conner can get in the end zone. Benny Snell's a sit. Smith-Schuster, if he plays, is a sit. Johnson is a sit. James Washington, who I actually like quite a bit, is a sit. Okay, Vance McDonald, if he can play, is a sit. And let me tell you, if Nick Vannett can play, he's a sit. Pittsburgh Steelers defense, I like quite a bit. I think the Steelers will be able to possibly force a turnover or two, and I definitely think that they will get to Josh Allen behind the line of scrimmage. They'll get a lot of sacks. So that's a very, very good defense to play this week in fantasy circles. Now for the Bills, their fantasy football outlook, Josh Allen is a sit. I think he'll get you some running yards, but I do not like him this week. You can find better on waivers. Frank Gore, Devin Singletary. Frank Gore is a sit. Devin Singletary, I think, is a start, but I do not think he scores. John Brown is a start. I don't think he scores. McKenzie, Beasley, both sits. Dawson Knox, a sit as well. Defense and special teams, I actually have them as a sit. Now, if you're wondering, I keep saying defense. If you're wondering why I think Pittsburgh's defense is so much better in terms of fantasy football than Buffalo, I think it comes down to the sacks. That's really where the difference is between those two teams. I think this is going to be a close game. Buffalo could very well win this game. I only had one touchdown predicted with James Conner, but that can't, that's not to say Buffalo can't win this game 9-7 or 12-10 or something like that. So it will be a close game, I believe. I think it will be a defensive struggle. Touchdowns are going to be rare, in my opinion, and we'll see what happens. So there you go. That takes me through the game plan for Pittsburgh versus Buffalo. Now let's just go ahead and swing it to the top 10 positional players for Mr. RoccoBot. Once again, our creepy robot is back. Let's talk about the top 10 quarterbacks projected in order. You got Deshaun Watson, Ryan Tannehill, Jameis Winston, Lamar Jackson, who already played, and he actually exceeded this expectation here. Jimmy Garoppolo, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Baker freaking Mayfield. Although I think this is a risk, though, because I think Baker Mayfield, he's thrown to injury. Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham are both on the injury list. So, although he's going to be available on a lot of people's waivers, and there are a lot of desperate folks out there, I don't love the play. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, that's one thing. If you're in a 1-quarterback league, I'm not loving it. Eli Manning, I think, plays a lot better than Daniel Jones if Daniel Jones is able to play. I'm guessing Manning is there from the injury news from last week, so I think he'll play. And then Drew Brees. Moving it to defense and special teams, New England, Pittsburgh, as I said before, San Francisco, Green Bay, Baltimore, Tennessee, the New York Jets, Carolina, LA Rams, and Philadelphia Eagles. If we look at the wide receiver in order, you got Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Marvin Jones, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Kenny Galladay, DJ Chark, Jarvis Landry, who is on that injury list, Sterling Shepard, and Devontae Parker, who's still in the concussion protocol. Be very careful with Devontae Parker. You look at tight ends now, you got George Kittle, Greg Olsen, who is also in the concussion protocol. Be very careful there. Waller, I believe he will have a nice game. Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook, who is also in the concussion protocol. Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram, he's in the injury. He's in an injury. I don't think he's in concussion protocol, but he's injured. O.J. Howard, I like quite a bit this week to pick up some of the slack from Mike Evans. And then David Njoku, assuming he can play. There's a lot of people questionable this week. Running backs, I do my top 20 just because running back is so important. You got McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, Henry, Carson, Chubb, Jones, Fournette. The surprise here is James White. Yes, I do like him this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. And then Josh Jacobs, who's also on the injured list. Then you have, let's see here, Ezekiel Elliott, Philip Lindsay, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Raheem Mostert. Very interesting for him to pop on the list. Kenyon Drake, yes, I like him more than I like David Johnson. James Conner, Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley, and Le'Veon Bell. Now, let's talk, and as we conclude this episode, let's shift it over to the Underdog NFL show. Let's talk a little bit about those rascals, those sneaky, sneaky New England Patriots. What are they up to?
Back in the news. This, it seems like they can't escape a scandal. We have this whole big thing this week that the Patriots illegally recorded the Cincinnati Bengals sidelines. Allegedly, this was all under for the purposes of filming a show called Do Your Job, which features less visible members of the organization. This episode focused on a day in the life of a New England pro scout. The Patriots did, in all fairness, obtain the necessary credentials to follow the scout into the Cleveland press box for the Browns-Bengals game. But, as the story goes, who knows what the truth is, some of the B-roll that was filmed included footage of the Cincinnati Bengals sidelines. This is, of course, 1,000,000% prohibited. NFL teams cannot shoot video of coaches on the sidelines. What was your take when you heard this?
First, I laughed, a mighty squeal. Like, this is just rich, you know? Like, what are you doing? You know, did you return to the scene of the crime?
Right.
But then, when you get more information, you're like, oh, this is like a very big blunder. And I'm kind of like, if I'm looking at it from one scenario, this one situation, I'm not actually thinking on the side of spyness.
Well, Goodell said that the Patriots' history with illegal videotaping, which is a crazy sentence that any team has a history with illegally videotaping other teams, is going to be factored into this whole process, that the league's going to take its time during the investigation, blah, 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 my guess. Something, following the season prior to the draft. Look, even if they didn't do it intentionally, which, I don't know, 8 minutes of B-roll, that's it's hard to not know what you're doing for 8 minutes. Even if they didn't do it intentionally, there has to be ramifications from this, right? They need to get punished.
Yeah, it's a bad mistake to make. I mean, you run a red light or you get the ticket. So whether you mean to or not, or you roll through the stop sign, or you get the ticket. So you've got to do it. And it's very funny that their cheating past is coming into play because, of course, right? You have to, in a sense. Everything else is that way.
Yeah, exactly right. And the metaphor of dealing with police officers is an interesting one as well. Like, if you're in the town you live in and a cop pulls you over for doing 10 miles over the speed limit, that first time you might get a warning as long as you're not a complete jerk. That second time, you're not going to get a warning. And we are well past the second time for the New England Patriots at this point. This is just it's status quo in the Patriots organization. They have to get punished. They have to get punished hard because precedent needs to be set here.
Yeah, you just can't make this mistake. You absolutely can't do it on purpose, and the whole world has to know and it has to echo. So I'm not going to be somebody that's on the side of, they made a mistake, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I mean, make it known that this is like, okay, very funny if you made the mistake, and if you didn't, all right, we got you, enough's enough.
Yeah, and I think especially after, I would say, the lenient punishment of good old Bob Kraft in the massage parlor.
Yeah.
they have to come, like that guy, if that was an NFL player, he's going to get suspended for multiple games. But because Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell have a relationship, Kraft got off pretty easy and often at the massage parlor. But
great one.
Thank you. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't want to go overboard here, but like my inkling is the Patriots should probably be saying goodbye to a second round pick.
Yeah, I was going to say second or third. Yep.
I don't know if third is enough, and first kind of does feel like too much.
Yeah, first feels vindictive, but it may be a first. Like that would be the hot take is like first.
Yeah, originally I thought, lose a first, but that just feels unreasonable, and I'm only setting myself up to be disappointed by it. So yeah, second round pick. You know what? They forfeit second round picks from the rest of the time that this team's a franchise. Just no more second round picks for the Patriots.
Fair. Now we're rolling. Now we're getting into like real true justice.
No one will ever accuse Roger Goodell of going easy on the Patriots again.
Ever, and we already know how much that narrative is running.
All right, and we're back, and why don't we conclude this episode now about everybody's favorite lunatic, Antonio Brown. This is the Underdog podcast, You're Wrong, Here's Why. Again, Chris Hordell with his co-host of this show, Greg Cohn.
All right, Gregory, we're back for our third and final segment of this week's episode of You're Wrong, and Here's Why. We're going to talk about why Antonio Brown, another diva wide receiver, has talked himself out of getting another shot in the National Football League. Tell me why.
This guy
just
cannot stop getting on Twitter and just yelling into the ether. Like, it's actually unreal. And all he does is take shots. He weirdly apologizes to Robert Kraft, but also takes shots at him. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And then today he's tweeting just basically like F the NFL like all day. He's tweeting out like search statistics from Google about who the most searched person was in the United States in 2019, and it's like, dude, the reason you were that is not because of a good thing. Let's the people on this list: Antonio Brown, right? Jussie Smollett. David Ortiz, who got shot. Andrew Luck retired. Bryce Harper signed the richest contract in the NFL. Myles Garrett hit a guy with a helmet. 21 Savage they found out that dude was actually like British or something. I don't know. I don't follow pop culture that much. Kevin Hart almost died in a car accident. R. Kelly, we don't even need to get into it.
What happened to R. Kelly?
I mean, R. Kelly has a multitude of problems.
He's my child's godfather. Is there something I should know?
You may want to Google it, Chris. I mean, you're talking about most of these people on these lists. It's not because of good things. Like, Robert Kraft's on this list, and that's because he had a couple trips to Florida. It's just, like, this is just, like, oh, I'm the most searched athlete in the world. I'm this, I'm that. I don't need the NFL. But then every other day you're tweeting back at the NFL. It's now reached that boiling point, which we sort of touched on last segment, where I don't think anybody's willing to deal with this, willing to touch this with a 200-foot pole. Like, I don't care how many routes he's running against random corners on high school fields. Like, I don't think an NFL team is going to want the circus that is going to follow Antonio Brown.
Here's the thing that you failed to take into consideration. Talent wins out every single time. And especially discounted talent wins out every single time. And Brown is certainly going to have to take an immense discount for whomever the next team that signs him is. Look, I heard from Drew Rosenhaus himself, and Drew Rosenhaus is not a guy to lie or self-promote, that a number of teams are interested in bringing in Antonio Brown as soon as all this nonsense is resolved and he is cleared. I think what the NFL is doing is very interesting because the NFL has kind of unofficially suspended him without actually having to suspend him by announcing that if he is signed, he could be placed on the commissioner's exempt list. And so he's kind of been unofficially suspended already, and teams don't know what's coming next. But that's going to be less of a concern once the year's over and you're not worried about having this guy in for the end of the season. He's going to be on somebody's roster. He's going to be in training camp with some team next year. There's no question in my mind. It would be hilarious if it was the Buffalo Bills. I think that's the most apropos fit for him to end up being the elite star receiver in Buffalo, a team that he refused to go to like 5 months ago. But the talent wins out. There's no way in the world Antonio Brown's not getting another chance to play in the National Football League.
I don't get what his plan is.
Oh, he doesn't have a plan.
I look and see. I don't even have to follow him on Twitter because it just gets retweeted and pushed out there so crazy on a daily basis that you're just like, dude, what are you doing? He's sending just random GIFs and random videos and highlights and talking about, you know, getting in touch with God, and you're just like, man, like, just stay silent. Like, just stay silent and you help yourself out so much more. Because you're just bringing more and more attention, more and more circus, tweeting out free the GOAT, random videos of him catching touchdown passes from Tom Brady. Dude, you played one game. Like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing here. Like, we get it, man. You had a touchdown catch in the one game you played for the Patriots. Like, I don't know how to take that. I don't know what to interpret from this video.
That he's the greatest wide receiver in the NFL today and deserves a chance to play football.
Sure, but you can't keep tweeting F him when somebody brings up the NFL, or somebody says there's a 0% chance that Antonio Brown ever plays another snap in the NFL, and that was from Marcus Mosher, whoever that guy is. Seems
reliable source, Gregory.
Something. Yeah, but he tweets that, and you're randomly quote tweeting people and just saying F them. Dude, there's nowhere else to go. Hey, Vince McMahon's gonna come and bring you the XFL. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Serious talk here. How smart would some XFL team be to throw incredible amounts of money at Kaepernick and Antonio Brown?
I mean, it would be ratings heaven.
And jersey heaven.
No, I mean they would make. And Vince McMahon he's a marketer. He is a marketer. So there is no doubt he knows how to merchandise these things. You could still walk around today and see, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirts. And a couple weeks ago, there's a new wrestling organization that's out there, AEW.
Oh, we see the commercials everywhere.
Of course, it's nonstop. But there was a guy in the front row the entire episode. He continued to point to his shirt and turn around, and he had a He Hate Me jersey on.
Amazing.
An original XFL He Hate Me jersey, which is unreal that you still have that, first of all,
Amazing.
Number one. But number two, it just proves that Vince McMahon knew what he was doing back then, if not for some of the other poorly run things and weird, inopportune things that the 30 for 30 on that put out there. A team with Kaepernick and Antonio Brown on it would be just the exact thing that they need to get people to pay attention. That's what happened. The problem with the AAF is that nobody cared almost immediately. Week 1, it was cool, and then it just died because nobody cared and nobody was interesting. Unless you wanted to watch that old Alabama running back who played for the Colts. I can't think of his name.
Trent Richardson.
Yes. Unless you wanted to watch him score 2-yard touchdown passes or touchdown runs for the Birmingham whatevers, then you weren't watching that league.
Okay, a couple things. One, the only Birmingham team I care about or will ever care about are the Birmingham Barons. Secondly, that was a giant missed opportunity because I actually weirdly thought the AAF's presentation was very good.
Yeah.
If you watched one of those games, like, you could be tricked into thinking like, oh, this is like showing a replay of an NFL game, until you've then looked at the jerseys and all of that. But production values were great. I thought the commentators did a nice job. It was well put together. It just wasn't engaging in any way. I want to hit this Buffalo thing real quick again. Buffalo and Pittsburgh this weekend, because I think this game is fascinating. Juju's back, James Conner's back, and this Bills defense has just been playing out of its mind over the past couple of weeks. And Bovada has the Steelers -1.5 at home. Who do you like there?
Duck Hodges seems to have revitalized this Steelers offense. I know they got the big punt return, which helped sort of propel them to the lead against the Cardinals, and then they let their defense sort of take over. Man, the Bills offense is the scariest part, which is why the Brown thing there is sort of the most intriguing. I kind of like the Steelers at home in that game. The Bills, as much as they controlled sort of Lamar Jackson for a part of that game, they sort of broke down and they have some openings. And I think the Steelers right now are the better coached team. They've sort of pushed all the right. I think they've pushed all the right buttons with all the adversity that they've faced against them. I'm not taking anything away from what Sean McDermott's done, fellow LaSalle alum. I'm not taking anything away from what he's done, from what he's done in Buffalo, mainly because I just don't. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think he's been really excellent and sort of turned around a franchise that had been floundering for a very long time. But I think that Tomlin just has this weird magic touch. I mean, think about it, Chris. What was it, week 5 or 6? We were talking about Mike Tomlin being fired by the Steelers, and now all of a sudden they have a potential grasp at the 6th seed. It's a really interesting team right now, and I kind of like the Steelers.
Fair enough. It's an unfortunate way to end the show, anything pro-Pittsburgh, but I don't begrudge you your thoughts, however wrong they may be, Gregory. Look, it's been another fun week here at You're Wrong, and here's why. Talked about a lot, accomplished a lot. I nailed everything, 3-0 once again. And, we're looking forward to doing it again next week. For Greg Crone, I'm Chris Horwardell. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next week.
All right, everybody, and we're back. Let's call that an episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to continue to add content. We're going to continue to add people, not just me, but other people on camera as well. So keep growing with us. This is the second chance here. Hopefully by playoff time we have this thing completely cleaned up and refined. Check us back. Like, subscribe, comment. What do you agree with? What do you hate? Tell me. Let's adapt. I am very, very open to notes here. Let's grow this show. Let's refine this show together. This is Underdog TV and Sunday Funday, the pregame show that hopefully doesn't suck.